This is Maestro with a Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite modcast. Today we have a game from a 2v2 tournament on Desert Showdown. Our first player is MDMA, playing as the teleporting Warp Spider Exarch, a ranged hero with a lot of mobility. His teammate is shreeH, playing as a Blood Raven's Force Commander, tanky, disruptive melee hero. On the opposing side, we've got ben1993 playing as the Eldar Farseer, an Eldar melee hero with supporting abilities. And finally, we've got Piano playing as the Chaos Plague Champion, a ranged hero to start out, but he can become a melee hero, and he's got supporting abilities, heals, and repairs. So then, as I said, this is from a 2v2 tournament. The players in this are going to be pretty high level, at least as far as I know. Ben1993 is a name I recognize from a long time ago. He's definitely quite good. Piano is a name that I've only seen recently coming back, but he does seem like someone who is also quite good. The names on the blue team I'm not familiar with, but just because this was from a tournament, I'm pretty sure these are pretty good players. Anyway, Desert Showdown is a pretty classic map as well. A lot of great games have happened on this, and I love the setup with kind of that middle with this big garrison. Even though garrisons are very situational in Dawn of War, I think just the architecture of this map with this in the middle has just made it almost iconic, at least in my mind, for some great team fights that will eventually happen in the middle over here. On the sides, though, we do have these more lighter skirmishes between individual players. We do have Dire Avengers trading out hit points. We do have the double against the triple, but MDMA's Dire Avengers with fewer hit points at the moment. So we have the players just holding on individual sides, while we have a light power bash happening from Piano over here. He doesn't have a huge amount of range DPS at the moment with just his Plague Champion and the Chaos Space Marine squad. He's going to add a Havoc squad to that, which doesn't actually add a lot of range DPS. It mostly just adds control. And he's going to need to also get his natural victory point, because we do have a significant VP lead in favor of the blue team at the moment, 500 to 410. They will get their natural, but meanwhile, let's take a look at what's happening here. Farseer did come around, and here is a shuriken cannon from that Guardian weapon team, suppressing the Dire Avengers from Ben1993. Ben1993 is going to put out a squad of Rangers. He's even going to go for a second one to try to scare off these Dire Avengers. They are starting to upgrade to the aspect of the Avengers to get more hit points and to get that grenade. I think we'll see a bash on at least one of these power generators. And I think if he really does focus fire quickly, he could possibly get another one, but he's also going to start taking a lot of bleed from the squad of Rangers, and especially from the second one that also is coming out. We do have a energy shield placed here. It was placed backwards, but of course that doesn't actually matter. It works all just the same. Energy shields providing perfect cover, so they will not take any range damage from there. But nice flank by the Farseer to get around. Does stop the Guardian weapon team, and that means she'll also just go in here. And we are just going to see the retreat from MDMA. Man, MDMA, talk about shooting. He's got double Guardian weapons teams, as well as the triple Dire Avengers. So VPs have been significantly in favor of the blue team. Finally, we're going to see a double cap, and possibly even a triple cap. And although the red team has gotten off to a rough start, I like the Farseer play coming out from Ben1993, and I think that's one of the things that we're seeing here, that we are seeing better players, that we're having a player who, instead of just getting his whole army suppressed, is actually able to put his Farseer in a different location so that it can actually go for a flank, tie up the shuriken cannon, and then the rest of his army can actually still function because they're not getting suppressed. Surprised to not see the victory point cap actually go in here, but we are seeing some back caps. Oh man, Warp Spider Exarch getting lots of decaps on these power nodes, requisition points, to deny the requisition income for the red team, and we're not going to see that traded out because the blue team does not have any kind of heroes with the level of mobility that the Warp Spider Exarch has. Meanwhile, that Warp Spider Exarch is in a little bit of trouble, but he is able to teleport out of there even after being knocked back. So Piano not looking too happy right now, and we are going to see another generator go down. Though the use of these energy shields from MDMA, though, is working out quite well, and he actually just ends up retreating That was not where that grenade was supposed to go. That one was actually placed correctly. Does get some damage on the Guardian weapon team, but does not take out even a single model. Oh my god! That one, on the other hand, right on the mark. Could have only been slightly better, perhaps taking out that entire squad. So, red team off to a rough start, but I think that can do a bit to put them back in the game. Meanwhile, we see a zombie assault marine being controlled here. Doesn't get to do anything, though. That means we have a plague sword from the plague champion, which is going to go well to deal with the assault marines from shreeH. And perhaps we're also going to see a bit of a power bash from here. Raptors out, as well as that upgraded plague champion with the plague sword. And Havocs are going to set up, going to make it hard for shreeH to really deal with this counterattack, because he does get his entire army suppressed. The assault marines go in, but here is the counter initiation from the heretics as well as the plague champion. Did not get a zombie model there. If he could, he might have been able to jump it on the tax or the scouts. We're going to see attempted decap by the plague champion, but decides he needs to actually go deal with the force commander, because that force commander is quite tanky. I think he is just barely going to get in on the Havocs, sacrifices most of his hit points to do so. I think this is going to be the force commander going down. So I see what he attempted to do there. Ultimately did not work. Not in too hard of a position for a revive, especially for a Warp Spider Exarch, but still, we're seeing a nice shift in momentum back for the red team. The problem is they're still dealing with the VP pressure, courtesy of that Warp Spider Exarch. Howling Banshees upgraded to the aspect of strength will take the middle victory point back, and they will also get the Rangers from Ben1993 gonna take the natural victory point for the blue team. It's always hard to actually discern, oh, is this one the natural or is this one the natural? Because they're actually pretty close to being even. It's almost like all victory points in this map are contested. But this one is just ever so slightly closer to the blue side, so I would call it the natural. Meanwhile, ooh, wow, this is actually great for the red team. They actually get a full cap on the power node. Haven't decided to put a power node on it. Probably just too easy to bash in return, especially with a flamer attack squad. But we are seeing that the blue team nevertheless is ahead in tech. And since they are ahead in tech, they're already in Tier 3. Falcon is already going to come out from MDMA, and Ben1993 in particular really is not going to have a response stat. Not yet, at least. And it's now out on the field, so although they were able to come back in on their team fights and on the map control, they're now going to be at an economic tech disadvantage, and we are going to see Heretics using the Touch of Nurgle to try to scare off... Oh, Zombie Assault Marine. Can it jump? It will jump, and it's going to just get the disruption on shreeH's Assault Marine squads. We're even going to see a heavy bolter turret put up, and that's great both for denying the recap on this power node as well as the revive on this Force Commander. This is a very, very interesting game so far with some very good play. I feel like there are things you might see here that you wouldn't see probably in just a typical game, especially if it's not really high-level players. But the Falcon, right now, it is uncontested, so nothing was done about that power bash over here. I say nothing, but they are getting close to it, but as we can see, it's not taking any serious damage. It took a whole 4 hit points worth of damage out of 500 from the combination of those Rangers as well as the Dire Avengers. So again, it's really just uncontested at the moment. If anything, I'm surprised it didn't get more of a generator bash, but here is the Autarch call-in on retreat, and does wipe an entire Ranger squad. Very, very nice play. So here is more of that generator bash. I think it will be the full farm. But of course the red team, if anything, I feel like the farm control is almost backwards. But actually it looks like the red team is not really missing power at the moment. But they're about to be missing power with these Tactical Marines moving in on this contested power farm. Tactical Marines could probably do this by themselves, but here is the jump in from the Raptors. They have not been suppressed by the Scouts yet, I'm surprised. I don't know if Scouts already used the ability somewhere else. Here's the Autarch jumping in. And the Raptors, ultimately though, they are going to have to get out of here. I don't see the Plague Champion winning this fight. Doomblast does go in for suppression, but the Autarch is actually getting a lot of value right here, being quite a nuisance. Guardian weapon team now upgrading to a Bright Lance, so that he can actually at least threaten the Falcon. Shouldn't be enough to actually kill the Falcon if these players are as good as I have made them out to be so far. He's only just barely in the firing arc. I think it did take one shot from the Bright Lance, but man, I'm not sure if the Bright Lance gets out of here alive. That was pretty close. I mean, 102, but to me that was pretty close. Like, one or two more swings and I feel like it would have been dead. So Razorback now coming in for shreeH, and that will complete this power bash. Well, I say that a little preemptively, but it will happen. And ironically, again, the power... Red team is now getting most of their power from the blue team's natural power form. So we're now seeing that pendulum swing back in favor of the blue team with these vehicles that they've put out on the field. Red team going to at least get a decap on this victory point. But the Guardian Weapon team is going to set up. No knockdown or kinetic pulse from the Rangers, and they actually just infiltrate out of there instead of retreating. And they're actually just going to keep putting pressure on the Guardian Weapon team. So I like that play again and again. I feel that's something that shows that we're seeing better players here, that we didn't just see a panic hit of the X button on those Rangers, but soon they might actually just have to hit the X button whether Ben is panicking or not. And he actually still keeps them in there, does lose a model, finally does have to retreat them. I think he really wanted to see if he can keep them in there, just keep them far back, keep getting shots off, but at some point he did lose a model and did actually need to retreat. The Warp Spider Exarch actually in serious amounts of trouble, and he could go down. He should go down. Very, very well played. So we did see the Force Commander get back up, but it looks like it cost the Warp Spider Exarch his life. And Piano is actually being pretty merciless on this side of the map. Razorback was taken out at a point that I had totally missed. Grenade's going to go in. Howling Banshees are in as well, and we do see the Exarch on the squad of Howling Banshees, so they do have that Executioner weapon. I was going to call it the Singing Spear. They have the Executioner, giving them some soft AV damage in the form of that heavy melee spear. But man, talk about AV. You're going to need something not so soft to deal with this. We've got the Wraith Lord. It's upgrading to the Shuriken Cannon. I've always been a big fan of this unit. I mean, there are certain Tier 2 walkers that I think are just very versatile in what they provide. They provide a lot, and the Wraith Lord is one of those. One of the others that I've often talked about is the Assault Cannon Dreadnought, and the Wraith Lord with the Shuriken Cannon functions very similarly. You've got a vehicle, so that's going to make it... It's almost innately tanky just because it is a vehicle. It has vehicle armor. It actually has a large hit point pool because it's a walker. And the Shuriken Cannon means it also provides a lot of ranged DPS, so it works very well as a centerpiece of your army, and it's definitely something that he wants to keep alive. Need to watch out for this Chaos Havoc. Havoc very quickly set up and then unset up. Not actually fully setting up so that it does not make it itself an easy target for the Assault Marines or the Force Commander. Force Commander fully kitted out now with the Thunder Hammer, Artificer Armor, and the Iron Halo. Pretty common since the Artificer Armor gives him both extra health and extra hit points. So between the Iron Halo and the Artificer Armor, that effectively gives him, if my math is good, an extra 800 hit points on top of his 1,061. We are going to see Haywire Grenade go in on the Wraith Lord. That might be enough to finish the Wraith Lord off. That would be very, very unfortunate for MDMA, and that will be the Wraith Lord going down. So, you know, just as I was talking, like, yeah, that's something you want to keep alive as long as possible. That Wraith Lord barely actually did anything, included, and even took the sunk cost of losing of upgrading to the Shuriken Cannon as well. You know, we've got this Blood Crusher in here. I think the Blood Crusher is going to go down. It's just taking too much damage and it's in so deep. But, I mean, if that was Piano's Blood Crusher, trading a Blood Crusher for a Wraith Lord is actually definitely a trade in favor of the red team. And, you know, I gotta say, part of me was almost hesitant to cast this game because for casting standards it is a little bit of a shorter game, but in my opinion, at least so far, I think this is actually the best game that I have cast since coming back this month. Just the kinds of plays that I'm seeing, from the skill levels of these players, it's working out quite well. Meanwhile, we now have a las cannon turret for Piano. He does finally lose control of the blue team's natural power as well as his turret. Meanwhile, these Warp Spiders in a bit of a compromising position. They have the aspect of Warp Spider. Of course, we've seen that because they have used the Haywire Grenade already. And I said they're in a compromising position, but they're Warp Spiders. So Banshees approach them in melee, they just teleport out of there. And that's part of how you should be using Warp Spiders. Autark going to secure the cap on the blue team's natural victory point. I think more things are actually happening here with a Force Commander going in against the Plague Champion, and that Force Commander, you know, with that passive chance to knock back, I think he really does just win against the Plague Champion, especially since the Plague Champion does not have an armor upgrade. And while I'm talking about armor upgrades, we're seeing Falcons go down here, and again, I'm really impressed with, considering I feel like the blue team started off with a very strong lead. They had both a VP advantage and an economic advantage, and I'm really impressed with the way the red team is coming back into this game. So we do have the Farseer, has been upgraded to the Runes of Reaping. This is definitely one of those war gears that I would say, you know, between the last 2.5 years that I have been absent, I definitely forgot that something like this even existed. And I'm pretty sure that this is also a war gear that is exclusive to the Elite Mod. So, we do see that Force Commander operating solo at the moment. Does just decide to retreat. Possibly could have stayed there even longer with, you know, the fact that he has the Iron Halo. If anything, he wasn't even using the tankiness of the Iron Halo. I don't know if he even activated Battle Cry, but decides to just get out there, not even risk it against all of these Chaos units that were definitely outnumbering him. We see these Warp Spiders now overwhelming this Guardian Weapon team. Will they force melee? And that's actually a tough call. I'm actually not sure with the Warp Spiders whether... I mean, of course, the Warp Spider Exarch, he does get those Power Blades that give him power melee. But since the rest of the Warp Spider squad doesn't really do a whole lot of melee, it might still just be better to have them focus fire with ranged, even against units that are in retreat. Not sure. I'm not sure about that one. So we've got a scout squad upgraded with shotguns, no sergeant, but level 2. This squad, I feel like, can't do a whole lot other than disrupt some squads that are approaching, suppress them with the shotgun blast. Without that sergeant, they're really lacking a lot of tankiness, so they really can't afford to take much damage. And we do have some powerful melee coming out of Piano. He's upgraded, he's gotten a squad of Bloodletters. You know, we're going to see some Eldar engagements go down here, those Death Spinners going out, doing a ton of damage, another grenade going to drop on those Banshees, does scare them out of there. They don't lose a single model, so they retreat with no economic losses whatsoever. It's actually, that's almost like about as perfect a retreat as you can get. So, Raptor's going to jump in, but they are disrupted by the Assault Marines, who are able to get out of there. Raptor's able to jump in a second time. They haven't suffered any model losses. They do get suppressed. And I actually... Oh, alright. I see the Force Commander now approaching. So yeah, they do got to get out of there, otherwise they will start losing models. And we're seeing some very good retreats from these players who are able to retreat. Not unnecessary retreats, actually retreating without any model losses, almost at the last possible moment. Otherwise they would take model losses. Blue team about to threaten a double cap with... Looks like MDMA getting a decap on both of the natural victory points rather. Autark's just going to jump out of there, and she'll probably just have to retreat. Yeah, I mean, she jumps out of there to make sure the heretics don't threaten any damage on retreat. Howling Banshee squad start to approach the Dire Avengers, and again another retreat with no model losses. Possibly could have kept them in there a little bit longer. Possibly actually could have. Well, they were about to be suppressed by a Guardian weapon team, so that was probably a wise decision to get them out of there. Wow, those Warp Spiders were really like at maximum range there. Need to upgrade to their Warp Spider Exarch. I'm pretty sure they had one before, but that they needed to get it back. Meanwhile, this squad of Dire Avengers needs to get behind the energy shield, and because they had those energy shields, even these Dire Avengers would be winning against those Warp Spiders. Warp Spider Squad from Ben. Back up. Oh, they actually could have targeted the Guardian weapon team right there. I guess he didn't realize that the firing arc was not actually facing his location because he was right around here. Force Commander is trying to scare off these Plague Marines. Plague Marines, I'm actually surprised. Well, they must have been there for a little while. Plague Marines aren't going to achieve a whole lot at the moment with no vehicles on the field. Autark jumps in on the Warp Spider Squad, which will stop them from doing their damage, but at some point... Oh, no, they don't have the energy to teleport, which also means it's probably on cooldown. Just kidding. Totally wrong. I'm underestimating energy costs. Anyway, we got a squad of Howling Banshees that will just need to retreat. This time does lose a model, but I think Ben1993 is doing a very, very good job of choosing his retreats wisely so that he does not suffer a lot of requisition bleed. This time we'll need to retreat. Yeah, the Warp Spider Squad just gonna have to retreat out of there. Ooh, this time losing 2 models. Ouch. We do have a heavy bolter turret. Autark has gotten around the heavy bolter turret, and wow. I was gonna say that heavy bolter turret under threat from the Plasma Devastators, but the Plasma Devastators themselves under threat from the Bloodletters. So that keeps the heavy bolter turret alive for now. It is going to need some retreats. And by retreats, I mean repairs, I think. Question mark. Anyway, another cap by the Autark. So we're seeing a lot of map control by these players, particularly MDMA, who you can almost argue is doing more map control than fighting. And we are going to see the red team come in over here. They are going to get the middle VP, and we are going to see them get probably the blue team's natural as well. Farseer capturing it. Warp Spider Exarch, and of course, I feel like the Warp Spider Exarch play is correct in that it almost seems like he is perpetually in cover, because with the fact that he can teleport, there's not much of a reason why he shouldn't be in cover. Red team has lost their natural victory point, however. Piano trying to get it back. His Plague Champion has taken a lot of damage, though, has gotten knocked down, trying to do some damage to this Assault Squad. But Piano, he's got a lot of levels, but he doesn't have an armor upgrade on the Plague Champion. That's one thing that I feel like maybe he could use. Uh-oh, MDMA calling the GG. Oh, and in fact, that is the game. So we do see the concede before the VP is actually ticking all the way down to 0. But I actually feel that was a great game. In my opinion, the highest level game, the best level game, the best game that I've cast since coming back. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I hope you have a good night.